it was an interesting experience to have a dip in my mental health living in Tokyo. I think there were some unique challenges being in Tokyo, which I'll talk about later on in the video. But yeah, I mean, this video, like, it's not really clickbaity. I didn't do anything super fucking dramatic outside from cutting my bangs. I think it's gonna be really relatable if you are going through it mentally, which, like, I mean, to be fair, there's a lot going on, so I wouldn't be surprised. Or if you're trying to make all these positive changes in your life, but sometimes the good old mental health comes back around to try and knock you down. I think this video is gonna really help you. I kind of overworked myself the first month I was in Japan, put a lot of stress and pressure and goals on myself, what's new, and then kind of burned out, and at the same time, like, physically started running into some mental health stuff. I'm better now, so don't worry about me. I'm doing good. But I really wanted to just honestly talk about this video and make a video like this, and I apologize if it's a little rambly. As a high achiever myself, and I have been a high achiever my whole life, and I know ever since childhood, I put very, very high expectations on myself, and I set very, very big goals, but due to me having about 0.75 of a brain cell, I'm often disappointed by the reality. But still, some part of me is really driven to succeed and actualize different things that I want to see in my life. So there is constantly this push and pull, and normally, when my mental health is fine, when I'm healthy on all the bases, I set goals, I achieve them. If I don't, I reflect on why, and if it's a changing goal, like, basically I got it, usually I got it. But every once in a blue moon, my mental health does take a bit of a toll, and so everything does sort of need to take a backseat for mental health. And, like, mental health is so complex and so specialized for each individual's brain and life experience to date. So there really is no one size fits all solution, and therapy is a great start. I really think mental health is this comprehensive picture. It comes into our relationship with ourself, our self-love, and how much we can support ourselves through it, which is so hard because when you're going through mental health stuff, whether it's depression, anxiety, like PTSD, whatever, you probably are not loving yourself at that moment in time. So it's like almost like asking you to do the impossible, but we as humans, we can do the impossible. We've done so many amazing things in society. We've made so many amazing advancements in technology. So yes, we can continue to try to love ourselves even when it feels impossible due to mental health. Believe in the power of the human spirit. If you want to help yourself out of a mental health episode, you can do it. You just have to hold on. And I'm going to share more tips that I found recently going through in Japan, because growing up when I was younger, I loved Japan. Like, to me, Japan was like heaven. It was vacation. It was holiday. Japan was usually the solution for my mental health, It's like, oh, I just need to go to Japan and now I feel better. But as an adult, what's been harder is that spending longer periods of time in Tokyo, I do go through the same mental health things that I experience in America. And in a sense, it's like, oh yeah, you can't just run away from your problems. You actually have to deal with them and face them. So that's a lot of what I've been doing. When you have poor mental health, you can have your goals, but don't beat yourself up for not being able to achieve your normally ambitious goals when you're dealing with, like, bouts of depression or anxiety or OCD or whatever, right? Get out, get some sun, sit down at a cafe, order something you like, get your work done, or get as much of your work done as possible. You can be aware of your goals, but don't expect that you're going to have the same productivity or goal achievement level as you do when you're not going through poor mental health. We can be realistic. Like, we're adults. We can be realistic with our mental health. It's not something that we have to beat ourselves up over, but there are balanced ways that we can approach mental health. So no, your whole life does not need to go down the drain when you're having a mental health episode, but you might need to give yourself, extra support, extra reflection of, like, okay, it'd be great if I achieve these goals, but let me just try for like 30%, because 30% is better than negative 50% or negative 100%, right? Like you could just let your whole life go to waste, go to ruin. You could pick fights, you could do any self-sabotage behavior that you normally do. But instead, try saying, okay, I might not show up, do my work as my best self right now, but 1% is better than self-sabotaging myself or going back to my old destructive habits, etc., etc. Let's just try for 1%. And if I do 1%, call it a great day. Start over again tomorrow. Sometimes I think the scary thing about poor mental health is you don't know how long it's going to last. Like there's no like solution or like medicine you get. Well, okay, there is medication. I have my own like views on this and experience with this, but basically it's hard because you don't know when it's going to end, and you want it to end, you just don't know when it's going to end. So by taking this, let's just do like a couple of small things every day, call it a day, start over, do the same thing. That has really, really helped me recently. But it is hard in Tokyo because, I'm like, okay, let me go like pack up my stuff. Let me find where I want to go in Tokyo, which is sometimes hard because sometimes cafes don't have Wi-Fi, or sometimes like the route's a little inconvenient and like my bag is heavy if I have to carry my laptop and notebooks and stuff. And then it's like, if you sit at a cafe, are you gonna like order a drink? Are you gonna order a whole meal? Like what if you're there for multiple hours? Are you gonna order 2 meals there? But what if you want to go out and eat ramen instead? It's like, there's just like logistics of Tokyo. You know that feeling when you like want to talk to someone but you don't because you don't know what to say, or you just like it's a passing moment, right? And in Tokyo there's so many passing moments like that. Like I was kind of scared because I thought, oh, if I'm having this mental health like thing and I leave my apartment, people are gonna be judgmental, or it's just not gonna be pretty, it's not gonna be good. Although mental health is not as commonly spoken about in Japan, maybe now more it is, but I do feel like it's something that people go through. It's like on the train, sometimes I literally see like a salary man or like just some person who, it's like the weirdest thing to describe. Maybe help me out in the comments. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that I actually felt surprisingly okay and not judged, and like there was kind of like an unspoken like safe space even being in public in Japan. So that was actually really, really interesting to me, and it made me think about how locally native like Japanese people deal with mental health things. I know therapy here is not covered by insurance unless it's like a really, really severe mental health thing. And I mean, let's just say in Japan there's not as healthy ways to deal with mental health that I'm not going to explicitly talk about in this channel. It just reminded me that there's a lot of like hard things that happen to humans in life. There's a lot of unfairness, grief. We all deal with grief at one point when we lose loved ones. Grief is something none of us can escape. Anxiety, like there's just, mental health is a thing. It is a thing. And reminding yourself when you are going through it that you are absolutely not alone, and that it's something that it's not weird, it's okay. Like people go through it. And to me that's always comforting to know like it's not just a me thing. I know it's not great to tell someone who's having a hard time to, oh, look on the bright side, or like there's people that have it worse off than you. But for me personally, like I don't want to hear it from other people, but it helps me to tell myself that, or to like have that perspective in my own head, just between me and me, is that like, you know what, it's really hard right now, but there's a lot that you have to like live for. Essentially, there's a lot that you have to be grateful for. There's just so many things that we all deal with at various points in our lives. And so for me, it is actually helpful to just like try to be grateful and actually look on the bright side, and also remind myself that not that people like have it worse than me per se, but people go through things in life. Being in Tokyo recently, I've been reflecting a lot on my career and my goals, and I feel like I've made a lot of progress in that, which I'm really grateful for. Also, after overworking for like the first month that I was here, I realized, I came here to go deeper in my healing and to hold space for myself. And I've been doing everything but that. I've actually been actively avoiding doing that work. And so it really came to asking myself why. Like, what am I running away from? And why am I running away from it? It did kind of force me to do the work. So I started doing more shadow work. I started just sitting with the pain and uncomfortable emotions and trying to see, when was the first time I felt this way? Or like, what was the origin of this feeling? Or like, why do I feel this way right now? What are my beliefs? So like basically my mental health episode forced me to do the healing work. And so in a way, I don't want to say I'm grateful. Like I really wish that didn't happen to me and I didn't like experience those difficulties recently. But the silver lining is that it brought me back to the healing work, which is what I wanted to do. And it's so true when they say healing is not linear. The process of healing is so messy and hard sometimes, and it can be anything but beautiful and serene. Like the healing work can get really hard and gross. And I think that's something that experiencing like a mental health dip in Tokyo has reminded me of recently. Healing on paper sounds like this nice, great thing. It's like, oh, you go to a spa or something, right? No, honey, it's not that. It's actually hard work. So in a way, like I guess it was a silver lining is just being humbled a little bit and being reminded of like, oh, you thought it was going to be that? Well, no, it's not. It's actually much harder, but what's new? That's life. I've learned this many, many times. Some really simple things, and like I just made this video because if you're living in Tokyo or if you're dealing with some mental health stuff and this video came up for you and you watched it up until here, I understand how complex of an issue it can be. I think one of the most important things when you're going through it is just to be nice to yourself and remember to be nice to yourself. And that is quite possibly the hardest thing when you're actually dealing with an acute like mental health episode. Like when you're in the middle of depression or anxiety, like actually the hardest thing is to be kind to yourself. But I made this video to remind you that that is what you need. And even though it's really, really hard, you can do hard things. Even when you're not feeling good mentally, we can do hard things. We can do hard things. And if you don't do anything else, the one thing to do is just try to love yourself as much as possible. And even if that means doing just 1% that day, 1% to get yourself out of bed and like take a walk around the block. Even if that means just trying to defend yourself if negative thoughts come up in your head, who's going to defend you from those negative voices in your head? That's part of loving yourself and being nice to yourself. And of course, taking care of yourself physically. So still try to eat like a good diet, stay hydrated, all of those things. Mental health is something it's just been a part of my life because I actually came from a high school where a lot of people, let's just say, ended their lives early. And it was something that made me very curious as a high schooler. I don't know if curious is exactly the right word, but it just made me see suffering, I guess, from like another lens, from another perspective. Mental health is just something I'm really, really passionate about alongside to holistic wellness and personal development. Like I think it's all correlated. I don't think that would be fair for me to not have a good life because I have mental health issues occasionally. And I know that a lot of people are similar to myself. You'll get to the other side. That's all you need to do. Try to be as kind to yourself as possible, even if that just means 1% more than the day before. Your life can be beautiful. You can actually become a stronger and more self-actualized and even more successful person if that's what you care about with your mental health. It doesn't need to be something that cripples you. It doesn't. So I think it's really important to know how to care for yourself when you're experiencing it. The way you deal with it when you're experiencing it, it's going to help a future you when you're out of that bleak mental health time. Every little thing you do counts, like every 1% is 1% that you are telling yourself, I'm going to take this 1% forward. I'm going to have faith and I'm going to take 1% forward. Don't overlook those little things, they actually matter a lot. I will be making like more practical mental health related videos on this channel, but also I will be continuing to make videos about self-actualization and liberation. Every amount that we invest into our own growth and expansion is progress and is a new unfolding of the experience that we have in this lifetime. So I think just for that alone, have hope. And yeah, if you ever want to talk, like, don't be a stranger. I'm nice. I don't bite. You can reach out to me anytime. You can DM me. You can leave a comment, etc. Yeah. And if you guys have tips too, like, please share them below. I know it's hard, but you can definitely get through it. I hope you find that little thing in your day that just makes you feel normal and human again.